Hey everyone, good morning from a briefly sunny Cork, which is kind of astonishing because it was pouring pouring rain this morning. Now, I'm a little out of breath because I was having glasses issues. I've got two pairs of glasses. These are distance ones, and I've got ones that are specifically for the computer, so kind of middle distance and a little closer upstairs. And I went and changed the computer ones thinking they're going to be better, but the computer is just a little bit too far away. And so I ran upstairs again, changed back to my distance one. So if you see me like this, it's because I'm still a little too far away from the computer reading comments. But I can see that I've got lots of people. And Liz, it's spilling rain where you are. It's sunny here in Cork now. So obviously the clear weather must be passing up your way. Let me know as we're going through. Is the sound okay? I've moved downstairs. I kind of wanted to be in the cozy shop space. Keep my fingers crossed that the post does not come banging on the door in a second, but they usually are past 4 o'clock, so I should be okay, I think. Yeah, we've got a lovely big collection of people here. We've got Yorkshire, North Carolina, Illinois, Ireland, Niagara Falls, Melvia. The sound is on. Excellent. As you see pinned at the top, we are going to have a giveaway today. So keep the chat going, ask all the questions, chat, anything at all goes. And we are going to just pick a random comment from the chat. So the more you comment, the more chance you are of actually being in line for a prize. So that will be kind of a little bit later in the Zoom live. If you have any questions, please shout. Let me know because I'm all ears. And let me know, have you started on your Chroi cardigan? Have you begun knitting it? Have you picked your color? If you have, let me know up here. Looking up here, does the collar stand up on its own or can be made to stand up? Oh, I'll show you that in a minute. Kimberly, you cast on for your Cree yesterday. You're using the sap color. You have two different dye lots. They look the same. You're alternating skeins just in case. That's a very smart move. Yeah, as a general rule, I won't necessarily alternate all of them, but if I've got two that are different, I'll probably do half on one, alternate for the next one, and then kind of keep going like that so that it means that if you get any slight difference, you're not going to have a harsh line. I have learned that the hard way. There's been quite a few times where I've looked at them and I think, oh, these are fine. And I start knitting with them. And because I'm generally knitting at nighttime, it doesn't really jump out. And with the result that it was when I take a photograph that you suddenly start seeing the lines. So it can be a little deceptive. Um, Mel, I need progressive lenses. The problem is that Elsa Louise, I'm not quite. I don't need reading glasses. It's really more kind of clear at the bottom with the ones I've got for the computer. So I've got like mid-grade ones. I'm in this weird, awkward in between stage where I do not need reading glasses, but distance glasses mean that when I'm reading things, I have to take them off to see it. So it's great fun. Well, if that's as bad as it gets getting old, I'll take it. I think that glasses are pretty easy to fix. Um, Sheila, one's on the first sleeve in the color Sea Spray, and it's gorgeous. Oh, fantastic. Monica from Salt Lake City. You need to get the pattern. Surprise, surprise, you've yarn and stash. Well, you are one step ahead of the show. So there you go. I'm going to go and jump over here and answer that question we have about the collar. But I'm looking here. Denise, you were saying my hint to keep projects in a bag while knitting helps with Cree. It makes a huge difference. I find that particularly for sleeves, once I get past the body, I don't want to be pulling them all around the place. And from my point of view, my cat hair gets everywhere, so that the more I protect it from that, the better. Like particularly at the moment, as soon as the weather gets cold, all the cats pile up on top of me. And that means that everything I finish, I have to use a lint roller on afterwards because it's kind of solid. Cindy, you're starting your Cree using the loam. It's soft and beautiful. Oh, excellent. Um, and Kathleen was asking to review the finished measurements regarding the overlap. Yes, for sure. Um, Kirsty, you're quietly confessing that it's on the blocking mat. So that's a good sign. It means that you were ready to get started. I would encourage you, Kirsty, if that's the case, and if you have hints that you think are going to help people, just pop on in. Shelley, instant mohair. Yes, instant mohair. All right. So first question was in relation to the collar. So in case you're wondering, this is Cozy Puzzle. It's a very oversized one. It's from a few years ago. And it's one that in wintertime I layer. I layer a lot. And so I keep this in the back of my chair in the studio because once I generally will have a sweater or I wear a lot of kind of sweater dresses. And then if I've got a big one like this, I can pop it over. And that's kind of what Cree was as well, is, and I will talk about the sizing and how I sized it so that if you don't want to wear it that way, you might adjust it a small little bit. So the collar, you'll only see, I'll be headless when I come over here. But the collar here is, it comes, you can have it all the way up like this. And it's not going to stand by itself, but you could do it where if you wanted it to only be up this far, you could just stop the short rows there because it's not going to cause a problem at all. This one, if it's down, what works best, I'd say if you want it standing, is if you folded it once, then it would stand up just like this. So the way I've actually designed it is I've basically done one fold like this and then, oh, I've got to go up again. And then I did the second one where I folded it a second time. So it's like a double roll because I like to wear it that way. But because of the fact that you're litting it from side to side and it's all short rows, you can actually just keep trying it on and adjust how many short rows you want because it's not going to, the short rows will end around here because you don't want the short rows to go past this section here that's angling, with the result that if you don't put the short rows in, you won't impact the width going across in the front. I'm looking here. Kimberly, you're also working on the Felix cardigan in Roan colorway and you're still plugging away at your Galway blanket. You have got no shortage of items on your needles, it would appear. So in terms of the sizing of this, and the reason why it looks a little bit bigger than ones I would normally do is because I had designed it with a slightly deeper yoke and a little bit bigger so that I could wear it like this over things. So I sized up, and also it's designed with a deeper yoke. So it's raglan, which means you can see it's just the really basic raglan. I did knit front and back, and I quite like the way that actually shows up in this. It's very simple to do and it works quite well. But you can see the raglan depth is quite deep. And that is because if you're wearing it over layers, the one thing you need space in is in the underarm. In fact, over on Threads today, we were talking about layering. That if I've forgotten a coat and I need to wear a layer over something, this is something that I use, but that's where you get caught. If everything's really tight in the underarm, it's both uncomfortable to wear and it gets really sweaty in there. So if you're wearing it over things, a deeper armhole is going to be your friend. Does mean that it's going to look a little bit bigger. So if that's not how you want to wear it, you can adjust it without making any other changes to the actual raglan. So the way we've done the raglan is you start first of all with full raglan. So all the sleeves, all of the front and back are all being increased. So full raglan ones. Then I hit a section where I'm doing the raglan every second right side row. So it's every fourth row, the raglan. If you want it shorter, then all you need to do is to take some of those right side rows where nothing is happening, take them out. And then the final section is everything except for the couple of smaller sizes. You're going to go ahead and you'll keep increasing the body, but not the sleeves. So that means that the sleeves don't get too big, but the body does get bigger. So some of those plain right side rows are the ones that you can take out if you want a little bit shorter. If you are in doubt as to what your size looks like, then just go into the schematic in the back and it'll tell you what the finished size is meant to be there. Audrey, you are working on your Bera in Jade, Jess. Oh, that's going to be so nice in that color. And you'd like to finish before the end of the year. Cindy also agrees with me. She likes the jade color as well. As does Liz. All right, I think we're going to have another knit along for Bera after this to get like a whole collection of all of the jade colorways for everyone. Actually, I can run back here and I can show you some of the jade color in case anybody hasn't seen it, because it is a very pretty color. Now, in terms of the front and overlap, because that was the other question that popped up there, do keep putting them up there if you've got questions in relation to this or in the sizing, because it is a little bit different than how I've done some of the other ones, but there was reason behind my madness, but there are a few variations. So with this at the very top here, you can see this. Imagine this garter stitch doesn't exist as you're knitting. So this is all empty. It's going to look a little strange because it'll look very small because there's going to be no front section. Like the whole front section is missing because that's all knit from side to side with the garter stitch. So it will mean as you're knitting, it looks super weird because you only start off with a couple of stitches up here and the only increases are here on this side for the raglan. That means that like this looks like it's sloping out, but that's only due to the raglan increases. There are no neck increases along the side and it comes down here. So the front of it here is that whole front section filled in. That was where you started off, where you, sorry, the neck side here that wasn't there before. That's filling all the way in on both sides. And then what I've done with this is there was 2 extra inches added on each side so that they'll cross over. So if you think if your neck is 8 inches wide, the opening across the back, then to reach the middle, each side of the front has to be 4 inches wide and then another 2 inches. So 6 inches to have a 6 inch overlap. So if, for instance, if you change the back of the neck and you made it narrower, then you don't need as much in the front to fill that in because you're going to be adjusting the number of raglan increases because you're going to need more. So that's how this filled in. I know there was a question as we went along from Liz, and Liz was saying that she doesn't like very open fronts here. And she was wondering if it was adjustable. And this was one that I was saying to her that it is totally adjustable. It will just mean that this front section isn't going to be as wide. So because there's no increases for the neck, if along the edge on each side here, you started doing a little bit of neck increases. So I would do a V-neck, as in keep it very steady. Maybe once every 4th row, you did an increase, being careful that you don't come too far in because you don't want to come all the way in across the back. So if there was 30 stitches across the back, that means eventually if it was going to touch in the front, you would need 15 on each side in addition to anything raglan wise. But even if you just want to have a very slight slope burning in, then you could go ahead and do a couple of extra increases. And what that means is this section is going to be over here. And so when you're starting to work the collar, there'll be however much extra you added at the front, you won't be doing that in the overlap. But that's also something you can even try on as you're going. So you could try it on, you can see how wide it is, if you like the way it works and things like that, so that you get a feel for what it looks like. I'm looking across over here. Kirsty was saying one of the testers in Ravelry that the fronts looked very small as she's knitting. And then she said, trust the process. They do look tiny, but the cover and the overlap sorts all of it out. It is true. It looks very strange because you're basically knitting a cardigan with no fronts. All of the fronts are done side to side. So it is a slightly different process. And the other option as well is if you don't want it as open in the front, the other thing you could do is actually do, if you want to leave everything as it was and not do those increases, you could actually also make it where you made even a little wider up here, or you brought the buttons up further so that it fastens up a little bit further here as well, would be totally doable. Because like I wanted the buttons to finish down here, but you could actually, like say for instance, you wanted to come a bit further, you could also continue the buttons up a little bit further, which is going to make a different collar, because these buttonholes are all done with I-cords at the very, very end. So you could, in fact, when you're trying to figure out how you want it to lie and how much you wanted to overlap, you can block it, you could put everything on before you did the buttonholes, and then effectively you could kind of put safety pins where you want it as you go down, and then you can put those buttonholes in at the end. So that's one of the joys of doing I-cord buttonholes at the very, very last stage, is that you don't have to make the decisions beforehand. So it could be, and that would actually also change how it's going to sit across really in the front. We've got CF, Carol, you're going to knit yours in Nightfall. Oh, that'll be nice. That'll be really nice. Denise wants to see the back of the Cosy puzzle. Certainly, I will turn around here. I won't stand up. Here we go. Back of the Cosy puzzle. And this is, maybe this side is better because you'll see it in brighter light over here. This one is, I love the cable on the arm of this, one of my favorite cables. So this, yeah, this one was, it was strips knit down like this, and then they were picked up along here. And you can see it's very, very, when these are knit down here with the 3 needle bind off. It's an unusual construction, but it's designed to be, there's no fastenings on it. It's just, it's like a glorified shawl with sleeves, really. Cheryl, you need a lesson how to sew on buttons with knitting. Yours always get loose and dangle. For sure. Yeah, there's actually, it was last winter, Emer did some really elaborate directions on how to sew on buttons, because she had buttons sewn on, I think it might be up here. Here we go. Nope, it was one of her, it was the variation on this. Here we go. Don't ask me the name of it, but this is the tea cozy, but there was a coffee cozy with buttons down here. And she did, and she went ahead and she did one where when you sew it on at the very, she keeps an actual, how can I describe it? It was a matchstick underneath, so that there was a distance between where you're sewing on the button and the fabric underneath. And that actually meant that when she was finished, she'd take the matchstick out, wound it around to create almost a section, or there's probably a word for that, in between the button and the fabric. And it meant that it wasn't being pulled away from the work. And I thought that was a really interesting way to do it. So you can maybe try that with buttons, is get a matchstick, or like a small DPN or something like that to hold shank. Audrey, thank you. My brain just went blank. I knew the word was there somewhere. I just couldn't remember it. But anything that holds the button up, so you're creating a little shank, wrap the yarn around and then fasten it in. Because often what it is if the button is fastened really close to the fabric, if you could take a look at how thick this is, like this is a fine yarn, but it's relatively thick, which means that if you want to put the buttonhole around it and it's regularly done like that, it's going to really be putting a lot of pressure on the button. So if you have a shank, thank you. I'm so glad that all of you people know these words that I'm forgetting. But if you put in a shank like that, it means that it's being held up and it doesn't pull that button off as easily. So that probably is going to be of some help to you, I think. Um, has anyone done a buttonhole like that before? Have you kind of, I used to do it naturally with thread, but I didn't have something physically in there to hold it up. But I'd always been taught when you do a button that you have to always twist the thread around, which naturally, between the button and the fabric before you sew it on. And I think that actually naturally creates the same thing. Where is it? Up here. Helen, you were asking, are the oval buttons back in stock? Not yet. I'm still waiting, I'm afraid. We got our supplier, they had a big delay on them, and so we've got them a back order with them. So we're just waiting for them to get them back into stock, because they're a lovely button, but unfortunately we bought everything they had in stock and they're still not back in stock yet. Sheila, the puzzle cardi would be gorgeous in Blosta as well. Oh, it would. It totally would. It might be a heavy Blosta, so it's going to be a bit thicker. What would work though is darny. We have some darny back here. In fact, there's probably anyone who hasn't used darny before. It's done by Studi Donegal. It's 100% wool, and it's kind of more of a sports weight, but I think. And this one is actually, it's not quite the same color, but it's kind of close enough. As I do think that darny probably is a good weight for this, would be my guess. Another question. Are we getting more buttons as they were out of stock when you bought the yarn? We absolutely will, as soon as we're able to get hold of, as soon as our supplier has them back in stock, basically. Jean, you use a small plastic clear button in the back to sew the two together. Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be the same thing, because it's going to give it a bit more stability into the back and prevent it pulling off. But I think that it's, just basically it's trying to pull away because of the fact that the knits do come under quite a bit of strain. Now I am going to go find that jade color for anyone who hasn't seen it. Here we go. Up here. Jade was one of the popular colors for the last club here. Here we go. I don't know how well you can see it. I don't, this looks greener in this light than it actually is. So I would suggest looking at this on the website if you're curious about the jade color. But it does have some nice little flecks of light green and pinks and purple. Yeah, it's got some great little color flecks going on in that. Um, Sheila, you can use the shawl pin until the button arrives. Absolutely. Yeah, because the shawl pill for these is going to work really well also because it's folds over and you can easily get through both of them. Yes, Cindy is just also agreeing that clear buttons on the back's a great idea. Denise, your husband can make your buttons for you. Oh, I'm very jealous. So what I printed out here before we got started, because this is the kind of thing I often get asked, is talking about sizing and trying to figure out what size to knit for yourself. So one thing that I am guilty of, I'll put my hand up, I'm guilty of it, is when I started knitting, first of all, and even now, I make assumptions about my size, of what size I should be knitting. Really, 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 you should regularly be getting somebody to measure you. Like to start with, it's the bust size, so just around your bust. If you can get someone to help you, it means it's nice and straight, the measuring tape, and it's not going to go from side to side. And that's going to be your starting point. And then from there, you're going to figure out how you're going to wear it. So that's why I'm talking about with this Chroi, the fact that I tend to wear it over things. So when I wear over things, it means that I'm going to want a bigger size or more positive ease. So if I measure myself and the measurement around is 35 inches, and then I decide I want 3 inches of positive ease, which means I want it 3 inches bigger than what I measured. That means I take my 35, add 3, and I'm looking at a finished measurement, or like when I put this down and measure around it, it should be around 38 inches. So on the pattern, you'll have two sets of things. The first one is in the sizes to fit actual bust size up to. And so that's what you measure, and that's a range because it's going to depend on how much ease you want. And if you're not sure how much ease you like, take a look at something that you've knit that fits well and that you would wear kind of in the same kind of circumstances. Ideally something knitted, but something where if you're going to wear over something that you know feels comfortable layered over things, put it down and measure the size across the bust of it. So that's going to give you a really good starting place to get going with it. So then from there, so that's going to give you, so up here, it'll be like it fit busts up to 31, 33.75, 36.5. And the reason it's up to 36.5 is I'm suggesting between 2 and 4 inches of positive ease. So if you come down underneath and your finished measurements are in that third size, it's 38.5. So you can see that's 2 inches over the 36.5, which would be my 2 inches of positive ease. But if I was a 34-inch bust size, when I measured around, or 34.5, and I wanted 4 inches of positive ease, I could still knit the same size, but I'm going to have 4 inches of positive ease. So that is going to totally be determined on your, first of all, your bust size, how you wear it, and how you like your clothes to fit, because people have different preferences. And I find for me that I change depending on how I'm going to wear it and also my circumstances. I used to wear things a lot more fitted, and now I find that I'm veer towards more ease, more positive ease, that I like the feel of stuff being a little looser. So I do find myself going a little bit too far in that direction. So I think I need to find a happy medium where I have a little bit of positive, a little bit more than I used to have positive ease, but not so oversized that I'm drowning in it. So that's the little sweet spot you're looking for in between the two. One thing to bear in mind actually with this, I was talking about the fact that the raglan is deeper. That's going to have a second impact for you as well, that you're going to want to check as you're knitting. When you wear this, as you're wearing it, the raglan coming down deeper means that the sleeve is going to start further down. So if you had a shorter raglan, it'll finish up here. The longer one is going to go further down. So when you're measuring your sleeve length, instead of it starting right from the underarm, it'll actually be starting further out here. So that's something to keep in mind, that you might knit what your usual sleeve length is. And if you're not measuring it, it could end up being a little longer because of the fact that the raglan is down a little further. So I'll actually, sometimes with that, if I want to be, if I'm really fussy about the sleeve length I want, I'll do the body. I might do some of the sleeves or the decreases are down to a certain point and then leave them sit. Finish the front collar, because how that sits and how it buttons will also have an impact on the sleeve, and then do the sleeve length last. So you can just leave it on a, if you've got, where are we? Oh, they're all gone. Barber cords, the barber cords over here, these barber cords or any kind of stitch holders, they're going to be really handy if you want to pop your sleeves onto something with this. What that will mean then is you can finish out the front of it and the sleeves can be the very end, and you can be really sure that it's the length you want. And what you'll also notice is this is a little bit wider, because for the same reason, going over other items of clothing, I want wider sleeves. I want kind of a more flowing and a more open shape. So that means that normally if you've got it kind of getting a bit tighter down here, even if the sleeve is a bit longer, it will get held up. But this is much more open, much more flowy. So it's going to stretch out to its full length, you know. Just having a look up here. Kirsty, positive ease for you hides a multitude of sins. No, positive ease is really good. Just don't overdo it. Like a lot of us have a tendency of overdoing it, thinking that it's going to be more comfortable, the more positive ease. But if you go too far, things like the neck will get too big or the sleeves get too long, stuff like that. So just be aware that you don't want to go too far with the positive ease. Sheila, you didn't want the waist shaping as you like the boxy shape. You hope it's not too big now. The waist shaping shouldn't be impacting, won't really be impacting it being too big. I think that should be fine. It's just going to, are you going to do the longer version or the shorter version? Because the shorter version, particularly with keeping it boxy, works just fine. The longer one, you just need to be careful if you're putting the belt on where you're putting it on, because the waist shaping gives it a little bit of a ability to kind of sit the belt where the narrowest point is. Um, when will I be getting the Jas Nightfall again? I believe everything is on order, so it shouldn't be very, very long. You can send a message into Laura as well, and she'll let you know when we expect to get it. But I think Donegal Yarns has gotten really speedy with their orders, so most things come in pretty quickly now. Um, Sheila, you love longer sleeves. You're a cool critter. My mother is the same. She asked for a reknit for a cardigan that I did her a couple of years ago for this Christmas, and she said, "But can you, the sleeves fit her perfectly?" She's like, "But can I have an extra 2 inches?" She loves really long sleeves. Okay, there's a couple. Is the cardigan shown in the long or the short length? This one is the long length. So this one would be like right down to the hips. And then the short length would be pretty much kind of on your waist length. So a kind of a standard cardigan length. So short should be standard, I suppose. And then long is going to be more jacket length. What else do we have here? Oh, there was we've got kind of this is not moving nicely for me here. Here we go. Denise, you wish you'd done the collar before the sleeves. Well, at least you can always rip them back if they're too long, so it's not too bad from that point of view. It's easier than doing the bottom up. And from Carol, you'd wrap more in the body and wear it like the DAC guide. Oh yeah, you can totally do that because you're doing it side to side. If you want a really big fold over, you totally could do that. You can actually, if you want a full crossover with this, you absolutely could do that. I would probably then put a second set of buttonholes in so that you could do like a double-breasted thing to hold it in. So because otherwise, if you only have one set of buttons over here, the inside will slip out. So at least even just once up here, you might want one button in here and one here, so it'll hold the inside in place as well. RC, you're watching from El Paso in Texas. You don't know how to knit, but you love seeing the videos. Maybe we'll convince you to knit. I love that you're watching the videos even though you're not a knitter. That's wonderful. Sheila, you finished the longer length. Perfect. Audrey, the amount of positive ease you need would be different depending on your size. Larger sizes do not need as much ease. Yeah, typically, often because I've seen people where I definitely wouldn't use percentages. I've seen percentages, which is a really bad idea. But ease is very, very personal. But just, yeah, don't overdo it is the best thing. And using things that you know that fit you well is the easiest way to figure out how much ease you like and how much you want. And that's why it's important to take a look at the actual finished size and not just the suggested size, because that way you can make your own decision based on what you like to wear yourself. Are the pockets after? Yes, they totally are. I actually like pockets afterwards because it means that you get to decide if you want them or where you want them. So if you like them higher, you can do that. So these ones were patch pockets, and we've got a video coming up where I'll show you how to do the mattress stitch around. But because you've got garter on both sides, it actually fits in really neatly all the way around. Oh, look, Cheryl, you are the winner of a pattern. Congratulations. Just send us on an email and we can make sure um, that you get whatever pattern you want. I'm having a look here. So the Audrey, oh, I saw that. Elsa Louise, you like to push your sleeves up. Elsa, you need to, maybe shorter sleeves might work well for you. And for Lemon Twitter, the long length appeals to you. Um, and are there any further adjustments if you want mid-length between a short and a long version? The only difference I would go is I'd probably do the amount of waist increase. If you're doing shaping for the waist, then I would do the same amount as for the shorter one, because the longer one has one more set of increases so that it comes out further, because you're going to have to take account of the fact that it's further down the hips. So that would be the only difference. Just keep an eye on the waist shaping, I think would be the only impact it would have. Sheila, if you did the collar first, you'd end up on Sleeve Island. Well, then do the sleeves, but perhaps just leave it so that you don't totally finish it out till the end and then come back and do the collar and do the sleeves. So that way you won't be abandoned on Sleeve Island. Um, Kathleen, you put a pocket on the inside of your sweaters. Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of that. Yeah, and this one you totally could. So like wherever you wanted it, you could just do the same thing and attach the pocket inside. Yeah, never occurred to me, but yeah, a very good idea. A secret pocket. I'm looking through. I think I've probably answered most questions that they went through. Does anybody have other questions on the top part? Like I can, and particularly like next week, I'm going to be talking about the body. So we kind of touched on it a little bit, talking about the lengths and the waist shaping, but I will go a little bit more into it. So if there's specific questions in relation to the shaping and the sizing and things like that, then you can give me a shout next week. If you want to get an idea of lengths and what the different lengths look like, and then some of the testers that put them up on Ravelry would be a great place to go, because some of them have done shorter, some have done longer, and it'll give you a feel for what the differences look like. Shorter length, obviously, you're not going to do the belt because there's not going to be enough below the waist to make any sense. So the belt is only really if you're going to be doing a longer version. I think yes, all of the questions have been answered, and thank you so much for joining me today. I do love my little yarny cocoon downstairs here. It's a very cozy place in winter to do my lives. So maybe down here next week, but perhaps I might be upstairs. I think that I'm probably going to have Magali will be joining me, I think, next week. I'll double check. There's one of the weeks she's going to join me. Cheryl, yes, it is the same time and day next week and the same the week after. So we've got 3 weeks to chat all the way through this. So if you're knitting through it, just save up the questions, pop them in here, because the lives will be posting them beforehand. So you can actually even put the chat in before it goes live so I can see them as we go through, so that if there's questions coming up, I can make sure I've got a proper answer for you to prepare it. But yeah, thank you all. It was lovely to be back again. And I hope you're all having a good December and you're not too cold wherever you are. Bye.